be talking a wee bit about my exhibition, the Old Tarts Brigade, which is showing in Kerry and Kanzman, Julie Reinholt's gallery at the moment. The whole idea behind the show literally came from living in a small little community up in Northland, and thinking about what do old tarts do the best. Well, they gossip, and when old tarts gossip, they make stories up, and it says nothing is good to, you know, never let the idea of a good story, you know, the facts getting away with a good story. And I thought, well, what happens when those things begin to linger and they start to take apart the society in which they stand upon, and in doing so, people begin to drown. Even after the white lies have died, the residue is still there. And I kind of thought, well, that's an interesting notion. No matter where you go in the world, you're always going to get these things happening. So this is kind of the idea of where the exhibition started. And alongside that, it was a parallel of 3 months of work. So the work here, which is shown, is an evolution of 3 months, basically starting with one entity and watching an idea grow and watching it formulate and evolve and mature into the finished product. I kind of went with the idea of the contemporary jewellery. First, we're going to have a wee little chat about that. The idea of the neck piece, the notion that these old girls wear their little old pearls and they go out for lunch together and they chat and they gossip. And I always kind of thought, when you're placing something over your neck, it's almost like placing a noose over your neck, and which seems a wee bit quite morbid, but in a way, when I was making the neck pieces, and I started with the evolution over here, the necklace is, when it's formulated underneath all the beads and the beautiful ideas, it starts with wire. Basically, you're placing over your head a garrote wire, and then you're decorating that garrote wire with beauty and elegance, accurate elegance, which we place over our heads. And it kind of reminded me, when I was at school, we studied a poem by Seamus Healy, the guy, the Irish 1960s political kind of activist. And it was called The Punishment. And it's about a wee bog body which was dug up in Germany. And the girl was found with a torque around her and a rope around her neck. She was garroted. Her head was shaved, and she was placed basically in a bog with a great big stone on top of her. And I remember reading about him paralleling the idea of the punishment of this girl for adultery. This is how they treated them. And he was also paralleling it with the IRA, the time in the 60s, and the informers. And if the women were having affairs with the British soldiers, they were taken and they were by the IRA and had their head shaved, they were stripped naked, they had something placed around their eyes, and it was tightly pulled into the neck and dug in. And they were tarred and feathered and then chained to the railings. And I always remember just feeling every time you place something around your neck, the noose tightens. And it almost to the point when my son graduated from nursery school, he had a tonga, a beautiful bone carving which he was given. And when I was placing, obviously, mummy, put it on, placing this twine and this bone carving around his neck, his little collagen-filled, beautiful skin at the nape of his neck, and the translucent quality it has. It just felt wrong, tightening up so it fitted nicely, and it really had a genetic kind of almost pullback feeling. And so that's really why I chose the neck pieces for these Old Tarts Brigades, because they place the noose, the idea, and the gossip becomes like a garrote wire around the neck, and through that garrote wire they will pull you down and pull you down and pull you down. And that then went into some of the painting or the drawings, especially this one here. These two here are probably the most poignant of all of them, liking that the secrets above ground become almost all the old tarts get together as in this kind of secret society, this sect, and it becomes this underground, subterranean little dwelling where all their secrets are held, and you can still kind of have an idea that they're going to be part of this Old Tarts Brigade. It might be above ground because it might be a slight little movement of the eyes or the hands when a name is mentioned, and I just kind of thought that was an interesting idea. They stand underneath their feet on the terra firma, and these cavernous, echoing voids where all their nastiness kind of dwells. And lastly, just this piece here. In our road where we live, there's a lady and her house burnt down, but she still lived in the husk of the house, and she was slightly mentally unstable, and so she's the authorities turned a blind eye, we turned a blind eye, I'm to blame as well. The council and the insurance company wouldn't come to town and really honour what she needed. And so she was left by all these veiled, ignorant people to kind of get on with it by herself. And these two Mormon guys took advantage of that as well, and they thought that the lady had passed away. And they chose that particular dwelling to actually go and meet and have their affair, because it was the only place that they could go. So the lady suddenly turned up, and she was alive, and she'd been seeing this going on, and she in turn, to get her own back, she in turn told all these people about what these two men were up to. And so the house became almost a metaphor for places which held the forgotten beings, the ones that society had rejected, that no one had really kind of looked after. Just by simply putting our veils of ignorance over, we can ignore a lot, and I think that stands for a lot of things. And I think I'll leave it there.